What is good, YouTube? In today's video, we are starting to put our engine back together. If you didn't watch last week's video, we finally picked it up from the machine shop after some very long depressing weeks of no XB, okay? But now we're gonna get back to it. This is gonna be a pretty long one, so sit down, grab some popcorn, some food. We're getting the XB running by the end of this episode. Hopefully, knock on wood. So this is where we left off last week, okay? I literally did not touch anything. The head is still wrapped, the block is still wrapped, okay? The only thing that the shop did not put on was the head studs, and that's because they were gonna charge me like an extra $300 to put the head studs in. No, we're not paying that, okay? We were already taxed, okay? This is everything we got done to it. 25, 40 plus a credit card fee. So it was like $26.30, okay? Hella bread. So now I'm gonna start unwrapping this, just the top part, so I can start putting the head bolts. I'm not gonna unwrap the bottom. The crank and all the bearings are already on. All right, so this is my first time installing these head studs, and obviously I'm following instructions because I don't want to do this wrong. But earlier I had the bolt upside down, so this little part goes towards the bottom of the block. So we'll do this one just to kind of show you guys. Put it in there. And then you just tighten it up. You tighten it up as much as you can by hand. It does say to not apply torque yet. So basically, we're going to tighten all of these by hand. We'll put the head gasket. We'll unwrap the head, throw the head on here, and then that's when you put the washer, the nut, and then that's when you do the sequence to torque them down. Alright, so I open up the entire top part because I wanted to use the vacuum to blow out all the air. I don't have any compressed air, so I'm, doing with what I got. Here is the OEM like block guard, I think is what it's called, which basically just sits right there. So that's good. That only fits one way, so I'm assuming it's that way. We're gonna double check before we actually seal it up. I already made sure that these are all clean, so now what we're gonna do is put some lubricant on the bottom part, the part that goes into the block, and then we're going to hand tighten all of them. So yeah, honestly, for the most part, these tighten pretty easily. From it being my first time, I didn't think it was too difficult. Just kind of follow the instructions. Alright, so as you guys seen on that time lapse, we ended up just hand tightening all the studs onto the actual block. Now, I'm not going to put the head gasket in the head yet because I want to put the block on the engine stand before I do that, so it's kind of easier to hold the head and line it up, and it's not on a table where it can move and fall and, shit can happen to it. Alright, so it's another day, and I basically threw the head gasket on here, made sure it was seated as flush as it can be without any nuts or anything on it. We clean the washers off with a shop towel just to get all the grease and lubricant off. And I got the right socket for this. So it is a 13mm 12 spline deep socket. I was trying to find the chrome one, but I couldn't, so I just got the black ones. I'm also not going to use this extension because usually extensions mess the torque up. So what we're going to do now is unwrap the head and throw it on here. Once it's on there, then I will throw the whole block and head onto the engine stand. That way we could torque everything down without having it move on the table. Now this was like opening a present on Christmas Day. It felt so rewarding, and I'm just so excited to get this done. Alright, so here it is, the entire head. As you could see, both camshafts are on and the bearings are all on. I do just need to go around and re-tighten these just to make sure they're good, because this one's a little loose, and I think this one right here, this one's loose. So we are going to just torque everything down again just to make sure. I took both cams off and all the bearings are on. So now that the head and the block are together, obviously the block is still wrapped. What I am going to do is just throw all the washers down on top of the head studs. Now I can't stress it enough to just follow the instructions from the ARP studs. Basically follow them word by word and you will not mess up. I was taking my time trying to make sure everything was cleaned off of them properly and that they were seated properly before we moved on. Now, from the instructions, there is a specific torque sequence that you need to follow. So I went through with that, and you have to torque each bolt 3 separate times. All right, so I went through and I torqued all the head studs in sequence. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Did all of that. Now we are going to put the camshafts back on the exact way that the machine shop left them. And then we should be good to throw this onto the engine stand to then start assembling the rest. Now, since the last clip, it's been a few days, maybe almost a week. I was putting the engine on the engine stand and tightening up all the bolts for the cams. Now, when I was tightening it, I accidentally over-tightened one and it snapped in half. Now, I don't know if I could buy these online, so I'm just gonna head to the junkyard really quick and grab a few from a spare XB that they got over there, and then I'll actually get the one sensor that I am missing, which I believe it's like a ground cable. I'll show you guys when I get to the junkyard. It's a weird one that goes in the front. I'll show you when I get there. But yeah, basically we broke one of the bolts for the cams. Now, I'm glad that the actual part that I broke was able to just come off, because if not, that would be even more problems. But let's get to the junkyard. I'm trying to get this quick. I'm trying to actually work on the XB today. All right, so we at the good old LKQ in Tampa. Now, they got a manual XB. People already ravaged through it, but it's actually manual. Transmission's still in there. I mean, so far they took the core support and some other accessories, but the trans is still here. So I mean, if anybody needs an XB manual trans, clutch and all that to like manual swap yours, is all right here. All right, but now to work on it. So we need to take out the valve cover because the cams are right under it. That way we can hit those cam bolts. And then the other thing I needed was when I took out my XB from the car, or my engine from the car, I broke this sensor, this plug. So I'm gonna cut it and take this pigtail, and then this yellow one as well. For some reason I broke both of them when I was pulling it out. I mean, I was kind of in a rush, but yeah, so at least we got those two. We'll cut those two pigtails, take them with me, and then we'll just combine them. And then other than that, I don't really need anything else. Holy shit. Through a rod. What the fuck? But yeah, that's still crazy. Couple minutes down, we already took off all the 10mm bolts for the valve cover. And I'm literally just going to take a bunch of these cam bolts because I need to make sure that I have extra just in case it happens again. And then we're gonna cut these pigtails. All right, so we're back home. It was a really quick junkyard trip, but now let's get back to installing everything on the engine. All right, so I kind of forgot to record, but I already put all the bolts back onto both of the cams, making sure they are all tightened. Now, I didn't torque these down. I basically tightened them with my hand, and then I give them a spin with the wrench just to make sure they're tight. I also went through all the bolts with the ratchet and just went like this to just make sure it's tight, because this one broke when I was using the torque wrench. So no torquing for these, but they should be strong on there and hopefully it doesn't come off. So I have a mess right now, as you can see from this table, but I'm working on the bottom end. So this is the part that goes under the block. As you guys could see, here is my crank, my rods, and all my pistons. Everything is all marked up. This is what the machine shop did. On the last clip, we tightened all the caps and everything on the cams. So now I'm just cleaning this up so then we could put this back on here, and we can work on putting the oil pump and the oil pan and everything situated. And then that way we can move over to the timing, which is probably going to be the hardest part because I've never done timing. So we're going to take my time, and I probably won't record anything. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, we'll pick back up. I've gone through like 8 or 10 videos on YouTube, and each single person does something different for timing. Now, I've asked ChatGPT, and ChatGPT, I told it to go based off of the Toyota manual for the 08XB with the 2AZ, because some Camrys TCs have slightly different like markings on the cam caps or on the cam gears. Gone through that, and then it wasn't working, so I had to redo it again. Now, as you guys can see, it looks kind of put together. Okay, so basically the exhaust gear, this indentation lines up with this marking on the chain. This indentation lines up with this one, which then they both line up with this arrow and this arrow. Now for the actual cams themselves, the first two for cylinder 1 need to be pointing outward and slightly up, so they're not directly flat, which they aren't, trust me, they're not. This I was using to verify that it was actually at the highest point. Then for down here, so the oil pump isn't going to line up right now, because basically the proper way to do your timing chain per the Toyota manual, you do your oil pump chain, you do this little guide, you line it up, you bolt this up, and then you're going to spin the engine to top dead center. Now when you spin it, the markings for the oil aren't going to line up, and that's okay, because they did line up when you started spinning it. Now this sprocket only goes one way, so it should be fine. And then now that it's a top dead center, we should be able to put the timing cover on. Then we're going to put the hydraulic pressure thing, which basically pushes on this and makes sure that the chain is tight. Now for the timing cover, I did end up using a lot of brake clean to get off all the dirty gunk and old silicone off. Here I'm just putting some new RTV on it. Make sure to get it evenly as possible and get all the holes. Now putting these bolts was kind of confusing because a lot of the pulleys have a bolt that goes through the timing cover. So I kind of just put some in random places as long as it was situated properly. Alright, so it's been a few days again since that last clip. Now, I told you guys in the beginning of the video, this video was going to be very long and it was going to be spread out through probably a couple, maybe a month or so of just clips of me trying to build this, because right now I really don't have that much time to basically work on the car 2, 3, 4 days a week. Like right now I'm working on the car maybe 1 or 2 days a week. If that. Like the one day I work on it is probably like 3-4 hours because it's one of my only days off and I want to spend time with my girl, so you know, a lot of stuff going on. But in the last clips you guys saw us setting the timing. Now I've gone through this timing so many freaking times because I really don't want to mess this up. So before I picked up the mic and the camera, I re-spun the crank, and now on a 2AZFE, if you spin the crank 360 degrees, it'll be on either the exhaust or the compression side. So I spun it multiple times until all the markings lined up again at top dead center and everything seemed good. So I'm going to close up the motor now. On the last episode you guys saw last week, we ended up painting the valve cover the same color that we painted the calipers. Now we're going to mount the valve cover because I don't want to have to worry about debris getting into the engine. So we're going to cover that up with the valve cover. So we got to put the new valve cover gasket, put some silicone on it, and then we also need to mount the oil pan. After the oil pan and valve cover, the motor will be entirely closed. And then we can start putting all the accessories like the alternator and all the other pulleys, water pump, and all that good stuff, and then get the transmission on, and then hopefully onto the car. Now, if you guys are staying tuned already and are still watching, I appreciate it very much. Hit the like, subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000, which sounds insane to me. We're at like 670 when I'm recording this video, and I appreciate you guys so much. Now back to the video. So if you guys didn't see the valve cover, here is what it looks like. It's the exact same color as the calipers. Now it didn't come out perfect because these two areas kind of, I guess, still had debris on them. So those kind of iffy, but if you step 2 feet back, you can't see that shit. So we're going to put it on because I don't care. Now, again, brake clean is going to be your biggest friend. You want to make sure it is as clean as possible so everything adheres properly. Now, this is a new valve cover gasket from Max Speeding Rods. Shout out to them. Before we go to that, we are going to get all the bolts for the valve cover. And I'm just going to spray a little bit of brake clean on them. These have been sealed since I literally put them in here months back when we took the XB apart. So now we gotta make sure everything's clean, that way it looks the nicest when we are putting it back. Now this is self-explanatory. I'm just putting brake clean on the oil cap and the bolts, that way they are clean and there's no gunk getting in the way while tightening. Now I'm hoping I never have to open back up the valve cover or the engine again, so I wanted to go through, check the timing, check all the bolts before I put on the valve cover gasket. Now I did do this wrong. Do not put RTV silicone on your valve cover gasket. That actually can cause an oil leak. Alright, so while we're installing this part, I am just going to go ahead and put the injectors and the coil packs in. That way we are fully secured up top and there's nothing gonna happen on this top part. Now before you guys actually get into the comments and start typing and clowning me, I meant to say spark plugs, not injectors, but you guys get the point. Tying the spark plugs and the coil packs. So I got them labeled the head sensors. Now this is going to be your crank sensor, which basically just gets connected right behind the crank pulley and then goes all the way up and connects to the harness. Then the VVTI, which basically just goes inside the head and connects right there. Now I'm only connecting this VVTI on this end because if you guys remember, we put the engine we pulled the engine this way, so we are going to put it the exact same way, and the harness for the engine actually goes through the intake manifold, so I cannot put the intake manifold until it's actually in the car, which kind of sucks because the intake manifold is kind of like a weird shape and like position, but whatever. Kind of got carried away and just started putting all the extra bolts that I have that go on the harness onto the actual engine. The other thing we need to do is put these oil pressure sensor, which basically goes right here. This is one of the two that I broke. And now we do the oil pan. As you guys can see, we already installed a brand new Asian oil pump, which is basically Toyota brand. Now with the oil pan, I'm going to do the same thing, clean these bolts, and then grab the brand new oil pan. I don't know if you guys seen, but so my last oil pan was pretty cooked because the car was low, so we got a brand new one. Now the oil pan is basically like the timing cover. You want to make sure it's as clean as possible, so use some brake clean. Once it's clean, you're going to put some silicone on the actual oil pan and then on the engine side. Just be really careful while tightening these bolts. These do tend to strip pretty easily. You don't want to do that. Feel free to let me know if you guys are liking the voiceover. I think I'm going to start doing this a lot more. I feel like I can explain a lot rather than just playing music in the back. Now the last thing I'm going to do today is put the oil filter on. Now we do need to run this for 500 miles, do an oil change, run it for another 500, do an oil change, and I think we have to do the first 250. So this oil filter is just going to go to waste, but it's easier to put on now than it will be to put on later. This should be the last few clips before we actually start putting the engine back into the car. Now all we're going to do is mount all the accessories, so like the alternator, the water pump, all of that goes in the belt. We'll do that, and then we'll go from there into mounting the transmission with the new stage clutch, and then we will get the engine harness out and get it ready to go in the car. Let's go. We're making progress. The engine is coming along and it's looking a lot better. I'm excited, ready to see what this is going to look like and see what kind of numbers it puts out. All right, so really quick, we are basically going to just mount the water pump onto the bracket itself, and then we'll mount the bracket onto the engine. Now, I researched because I thought this took an actual gasket, and it doesn't. It just uses RTV, and then it basically seals right on there with just RTV. We'll put a little, like, I think it said like 3 millimeters thick. So then we'll do that. Then we'll put the pulley on this, and then we will mount the thermostat and all of that into here, and we'll go from there. Okay, so here you see me doing the exact same thing I've been doing the past 20 minutes. Cleaning off the part, putting a good amount of silicone, and then making sure that the silicone is on there even throughout the entire part. Then I went through, tied all the bolts by hand, and then a little bit with the electric ratchet. You want to make sure you go over it with the hand ratchet just to make sure that it is fully tight. Then we put the pulley on there, and now we're just basically mounting it onto the block. I know right here it is sped up, but I actually took my time just verifying that all the bolts are the exact length that threads into the block. You don't want to get it wrong, then that could cause leaks, or who knows, maybe the engine blows up. All right, so now that the water pump and the pulley for it is on, I've actually put this coolant line halfway on. I can't fully mount it because where it bolts up to the engine stand is in the way. So that's in there. The thermostat is in. What I'm going to start doing is putting all the other pulleys. So we do got to put the tensioner pulley, the one in the back that's basically a dead pulley. It doesn't really do anything. And then we can put the alternator and the AC compressor, and then put the belt, and then we can tighten it and loosen it. That way it makes sure that all the pulleys are spinning correctly. You would think that now that I'm on my 4th XP, I would actually know how to do this properly and how to set up the serpentine belt with all the pulleys. I actually have no idea what I'm doing, and it took me like 5 minutes to figure this out. Also had to ask ChatGPT, so if you guys are using ChatGPT, just be careful. Sometimes it gives you wrong info. Alright, so since that last clip that you guys saw, and I was putting the tensioner pulley and the dead pulley back on, I did notice that I accidentally put this wrong. I put it upside down, so it wasn't going to move. Now, on an XB, if you guys don't know, this is the adjusting spot. Basically, you would get a wrench in there. It's a lot harder once everything is in the car, but then basically you would push down. And then that's how you would loosen up your belt. So now all we got left to do is put the alternator and the AC compressor. For now, I am going to keep the AC compressor. I don't know if later on I want to delete it. I think if I delete the AC compressor or the AC lines and everything like that, the engine bay frees up a lot. But then it is Florida, and I don't know if I want to deal with the heat because right now it is 95 degrees in the garage, and that is insane. I am dying. All right, so before we do put the alternator on, I am going to put this axle bracket on, which basically it is literally 3 bolts right there, and that is it. Basically, this is where the passenger side axle goes through and then connects to the transmission, just to make sure that it is straight onto the trans. So the 2 bolts that I had separated for the alternator, one of them was giving me an issue, so I kind of had to put it through by itself first and then put it onto the alternator. All right, so now what I am doing is putting the super damper onto the crank. Now, the OEM one fits snug, super easily. Now this one is a pain in the butt, okay? Now, I called these guys, and they said I gotta heat this thing up because basically it'll make it expand a tiny bit and it'll let you slide it on, and then you should be good. If that doesn't work, then they'll replace it for me. All right, so after some heating up with the heat gun, it went in, it's fully set, it's at top dead center, everything is good. All that's left is to put the AC compressor. All right, AC compressor's on. Alternator's on, the super damper is on, everything is on. Now, because of this, I'm not too sure if we need to get a different belt. So I'm going to try the OEM one, and we're going to see if that fits. So like I said earlier, I really don't know what I'm doing, and for some reason, it took me about 25 minutes to get this serpentine belt on. Kind of insane. Alright, so this is the first time we're seeing the engine outside of the garage. Holy crap. I'm ready to throw this thing in. Now, I already went and picked up the oil dipstick from the junkyard and the other nut that I was missing for the AC compressor. There's a couple things I still need to finish on this before I actually throw the engine in there. We need to re-put the brake pads in the rear and rebuild that other brake cylinder. Once we do that and put the wheels on it, then we'll be able to at least take it off the jack stands, push it back a little bit, and then we should be good to put the engine into the engine hoist. For it being my first time rebuilding one of these like brake cylinders, it actually isn't too complicated as long as you have the right tool, which is kind of like that square cube thing they use for some brake calipers. So it went in kind of smoothly. Now we're just going to do both sides. On the driver's side, I actually did need to add 2 new studs, but we'll be doing that in just a second. All right, so we got the brake cylinder on the driver's side back on with the grommet. I put the brake caliper bracket back on. I did get new rotors for both of the rears, and I need to get these 2 lug studs. So I need these 2 lug studs, and on the passenger side, I need this grommet. I was able to get the cylinder back in, but without this grommet, it's just gonna leak. So I have to go get that from, I think AutoZone has it, and then see if AutoZone has these 2 lug studs. So we did end up getting those 2 lug studs at AutoZone or O'Reilly's. I can't really remember. Other than that, I put the brake caliper bracket on before putting the brake rotor. So you'll see me take that off in a second because it goes brake rotor and then the caliper bracket. All right. So now that the new studs are in, as you guys saw, I used some washers and an actual lug nut and just hit the lug nut with the impact until they went in fully. Now those are good. Brake caliper bracket is on. This is the driver's side that actually does have the boot. I went to AutoZone and got these 2, but unfortunately all of the AutoZones near me don't sell just the boot. They sell the entire caliper. I'm not buying one. Then I went to Advanced. They had these, but also didn't have the boots. And then same thing, they sell just the entire caliper. I don't want to do that, so I think what I'm going to do is end up going to the same junkyard that I went to earlier to get the oil dipstick and just take the boot off the caliper. That'll probably be my easiest bet. And then right now we are going to put the new brake pads on. So these brake pads come with the grease and the new hardware. Now, I don't know if you guys know about this A Premium brand. Now, they sell on Amazon, eBay, and a lot of other places. I've had no issues with all the parts that I've gotten for my XB. Anytime I replace like a lower control arm or a tie rod or a ball joint, A Premium, their prices are fairly cheap. So I've been going with those and I haven't had any issues. I think the only thing I've had issues with is my axles, but that's just because I'm too low and the XB axles are always ass. So that's probably why. But A Premium is a pretty good brand. And then these are the new rotors that we got. They're not drilled or slotted, but I do like the look of these. All right, so we got the wheels. Now, these are very dirty and I haven't cleaned them. I plan on cleaning the entire car once we get it running, okay? First drive to the car wash. All right, so let's put these on. All right, so this is the first time that I've put a wheel on. What do you guys think about the calipers? They kind of blend in, but once you get closer, you know that it's gold. All right, now we're gonna do the exact same thing, but with the front. Now the fronts I'd never unbuilt, so it should be pretty easy. The only thing I ended up taking was the ball joint off, and yeah, that was it. So all we really gotta do is put the caliper bracket back on, which should be pretty simple. Yeah, so we got 2 bolts for the caliper bracket, 2 bolts for the actual caliper. We ended up doing the new pads. That way that's all situated. Pushed in the brake cylinder all the way, and then we're just gonna put the wheel on. All right, so now we're gonna work on the front passenger side. Again, I'm putting the wheels on just so I can move the car. We are gonna have to take them off so I can put the axles and everything in, but I need to be able to move the car. It's time to actually put this thing down on the floor, roll it back, so we can actually start assembling the engine into the engine bay. Now, there are no brakes. There's literally zero. There's no brake fluid, nothing like that inside the car. So I do have this massive brick right here that I'm just gonna pull it behind, and hopefully that stops the car from rolling back. I need to roll it back at least a good 8 feet, I would say. I need to roll it back till it's like down here. That way I could get the engine hoist into the front of the car without taking up the entire driveway. And yeah, let's just see how that goes. So here I'm just jacking up the car and trying to lower it one side at a time. If you guys know anything about lowering a stance car from a jack, it's actually so annoying, and it's probably one of the worst things you have to do with a stance car, but you know, you suck it up for the low life. And honestly, it being no brakes kind of sucks. You'll see in just a second. I was struggling, so if you hear me breathing, don't laugh, okay? I was almost done. Oh my gosh, that bitch is heavy. Oh my gosh, it's hot as hell. Oh, this fucking shit. Oh. Oh my gosh. Over there. God damn. Alright, so I was filming some TikToks. We got the engine outside. Let me bring the engine hoist out so we can finally start assembling the transmission with the new clutch, and then we can start putting it into the car. Here it is, transmission. Now it's dirty as shit. Alright, so that is as clean as the transmission is gonna get. I'm obviously not tripping if it's a little bit dirty. Not a lot of it off, it looks a lot better. Let me get the new clutch really quick. Alright, so the new clutch is a spec clutch. Now, essentially this is a stage 1. I didn't want to go with a too heavy clutch because my girlfriend is also going to be driving in this car. Alright, so these are the install notes with the warranty and everything like that. Basically, there is a 500-mile braking period, which we have a 1,000-mile braking period on the engine, so they'll break in around the same time. Again, this is a stage 1, basically not too much of a heavier clutch than OEM, but a slight upgrade. I didn't want to go with like a stage 3 or stage 4, even though we will probably be tracking this car at one point. I just think it's going to be easier. Alright, so here we're just taking off the OEM clutch, making sure that everything OEM is out so we can put the new stage 1. Alright, so according to the spec 1, the flywheel bolts go to 96 foot-pounds, and then the actual little bolts that connect to here is only 14 foot-pounds. So we're going to tighten these, and we'll get to putting this on. So this is my first time taking off and putting in a new clutch. Kind of took my time, researched different ways on how to do it properly, and then we are just going to torque all the bolts down. So the transmission actually took me a couple tries to get it situated onto the engine properly, but as you can see, I'm just going over tightening all the bolts And then I'm going to start putting the motor mounts in. That way it is easier once we get the engine inside the car. Alright, so we are officially ready to start getting this into the car. Now, it did take us a little bit. This video's already been quite long, but if you're still watching, hit the like. I appreciate you guys so much. Let's get the engine into the XB. What I'm gonna do is just work on putting the motor mounts, and once the motor mounts are all fully in and tie in, then we'll get around to starting with the harness, swapping out the fuel rail, connecting the axles, and every little bolt. Again, I am exhausted. It is 95 degrees right now, and this tent ain't really doing much, but let's get through it. I started off by putting in the front motor mount because that one just has 2 bolts, so I figured it would actually be the easiest because it is in the middle and in the front of the car. That way we can move towards the transmission side and then the back and then the engine side. Now this transmission motor mount is actually the worst out of the 4. You have to go a quarter turn at a time with an adjusting wrench. It is so time consuming and annoying. And the worst part is that there is 4 bolts, so you need to do a quarter turn at a time. You know, I remember why I absolutely hate that transmission mount. It is such a pain in the ass to get, and it's 4 bolts, and you could thread them halfway in normally, and then at the end you have to do like 8 turns, all 4, bro. It takes forever. I am freaking dying, bro. We already have 2 motor mounts in. I'm gonna try to put the back one because the passenger side one is being held by the hoist, so I won't be able to do that one until last. The good thing is if I get all 3, I could just put the jack under the engine and we should be able to get that one in, so it shouldn't be too difficult. So update, we got the passenger side motor mount in. All we have left to do is the last one. Now with the last one, I obviously have to install my spacers, my 1-inch spacers for my 1-inch motor rails. And then we should be good to take off the hoist. It's not even connected, so we could take it off right now. But this shit looks sick. Can't wait till everything's on. So now that the motor mounts are in, we're going to start working with the axles. So I went through, I kind of cleaned my area up a little bit because I was making a mess. But I started putting in the passenger side axle, which is actually the easier out of the 2. For some reason, the driver's side axle is always the worst one to get in and out. Alright, so quick little update. As you guys seen, we put the axles in already. So we have both axles and all the motor mounts in. This has taken a lot longer than I thought. I felt like removing everything was so quick, but putting everything back takes double the amount of time. So what I'm going to do now is start working on the harness, and then after the harness, we will put the whole front core support, fill the fluids. I got to fill the trans, oil, coolant, brake fluid, and then I have to bleed the brakes and bleed the clutch. So we still have a few things before we can actually start the car, but at least the hard part is done. The engine is in the car, which ideally was what I was hoping to get done today. If I can't finish the rest, then we'll pick back up another day, you know. So with the wiring harness, it's actually pretty simple. There's only 2 power wires. One's the battery, one is the alternator, and everything else kind of just plugs in only one spot. So you go through that. Pretty simple. Just take your time. Don't mess it up. All right. So we have finished doing the harness. Now we have the alternator already plugged in, the AC compressor. I need to put this bracket on, and I need to put the bracket that holds on to this one. All that's left is to put the intake manifold. And then after the intake manifold, we can put the battery. The battery tray I'm not going to put because I do feel like doing a battery relocation. So that. And then we need to get on with the fuel part after we do all the fluids. But we're making progress. So here I started just making sure that I had everything for the intake manifold. It is a very weird spot to get into, so I ended up just taking off the cowl so we had more space to position it properly. Once you get the bolts up top, you will have to go under the car to get the 3 bolts that go on the bottom. Then here we got the new billet fuel rail, so I was kind of just marking it up, making sure I had the right bolts and spacers for the injectors. Cleaned the injectors with a rag and a little bit of brake clean. and then just positioned it properly, tightened it with the electric ratchet, and then went over it with the wrench. This fuel rail looks so crazy. So all that's left on this side is to put obviously all the hoses for the coolant system. Then I need to, if I want to connect the AC, do my throttle body and the intake, and then we can put the battery tray. All right, so we're gonna put the cowl back on, fill up the transmission with transmission fluid, make sure that there's no leaks on that, and then we're gonna put the oil. The engine, we are gonna need to build pressure before we do start it, but we have a couple other things we need to do beforehand. I just want to get the oil over with so that way it could kind of settle down. Other than that, I still need to remove the fuel lines, the OEM ones, with the evap system, but that'll probably be for another video because I kind of really just want to get this started to see if everything's good and see what codes we get, because if we only get evap codes, then everything's good, you know, and we're not like misfiring like cylinder 3, 4 or whatever. Yeah, other than that, obviously we still got to put the radiator in the core support, but that'll be last. I'm trying to think what else we got to do. I think that's it. Let's just get started putting the cowl back on, and we'll put the throttle body, and we'll probably put the intake while we're at it before the sun goes down. Okay, so here basically I started off by putting the cowl back on. We don't really need it off anymore, so might as well put it back on. Then we're gonna fill up the transmission with the proper fluid. It did take about 2.5, almost 3 quarts, so just buy enough if you're gonna refill it. And we're back. Okay, now we need to do the brakes. So as you guys know, we had camber in the back and we took it off, fucked up my brakes. So now I have no brake fluid in the car, meaning we have to refill it. We have to bleed the brakes rear to front and then the clutch. And then I'm not sure if we're gonna lift the car and do that or if I could just do it through the wheel. So yeah, but let's go. We're like almost there. All right, quick little update. Intake's on, header's on, everything's on. We just have to finish the fuel rail. But my friend, this shit cracked and it's leaking. So I filled up the coolant, but it keeps leaking through there. So I need a new radiator. Other than that, we are working on the fuel rail. I need to get this to go in there. That way out through here. Connect that shit to this shit and then send it back to the fuel cell. All right, so I really haven't done much progress since the last little clip. I've just been trying to figure out where the fuel pressure regulator goes. Now, I thought it went after the fuel rail, but my dad's boosted Civic has it beforehand. So it would go, the line from the fuel cell goes into here, and then this connects to the fuel rail, and from the fuel, it goes straight back. Now that kind of makes sense because you would need to regulate pressure before it goes into the engine, and then everything else is just going to go straight back into the fuel cell. So I think that's right. I think I found the proper fitting that connects to the fuel rail. So I'm going to just time lapse me trying to connect it. After I connect it, I need to make the fitting that connects the fuel line to the inside, and then we'll just plug the bottom part. And then we should be good with that, I think. Other than that, I think there's a couple more things I'm forgetting. So let me just time lapse this and get the rolling. Fuel system is basically done. We ran the return line. All I gotta do is connect it into the back, throw a positive and a negative, and we are ready to fucking start this bitch. Okay. This shit blows up. I don't even know, bro. I don't even know. All right, so last couple things. Return cell. We're just gonna put this fitting that we fucking drove almost 2 hours for, and we should be lit. It is not finalized, but the car should be ready to fucking start. Alright, we are gonna try to prime the fuel cell to get this bitch to build oil pressure, and then we're gonna figure this out. Nah, we think the jump pack is dead. No, it's not dead, it's just not recognized.
The jump box is good?
We'll have to wire this bitch. Fuck me. Alright, we gotta wire the fucking fuel pump. Alright, BRB. We found 2 random wires. We're gonna extend them from the fucking fuel pump to the battery, and we should be straight. This shit should fucking crank. So this should prime the fuel pump. At the same time, it's gonna try to crank.
Yeah.
So he's gotta
Also
try it
to the leaks.
to leaks, and then we'll go from there. Alright, bruh. Attempt number 6. Battery's still good. Come on, baby. You don't even hear the starter. I'm gonna hit that bitch with a hammer. Oh, not a hammer, whatever the fuck it is. Screwdriver? How you do it? I usually just hit it with a screwdriver.
I usually just hit it with this.
Yeah, fuck it. Try again. Nah. Hit it again? Nah.
Okay.
Tell you what. Alright. So this straight to the block. So from the fans. It'll be here.
From the negative, is it right?
Yeah, negative. You hear that shit? That shit is still on. It isn't strong. Okay, so to this. And then this is the block or the transmission. So it has one back here behind the starter, and that's where that one is. But the ground. Yeah. Right.
Alright, ready? You know if I die. None?
Put it on the block. Just throw that bitch anywhere on the block. Fuck it. Ready? That's it.
Yeah! Are you recording?
Yeah, it's recording.
I
stopped that shit. Look at this. Alright, so we got a new ground in. We gonna get this bitch to crank 15-30 seconds, and then we go see where it goes. Alright, ready?
Ready when you are.
Alright, 3, 2, 1. You're good.
Yo!
What?
That shit sounded crazy.
Alright, you wanna keep it on? Just keep
You
it
want
bright.
to?
Yeah, fuck. I need to hear this bitch roar.
Leaking. A lot.
Alright. That bitch turned on.
Yo!
I'm fucking lit. I'm lit. We done did it. Alright, we got some issues, but we gonna figure the rest out. Alright, so as you guys seen, we finally got the XP to turn on. It's not perfect, but it does turn on, which honestly I was so skeptical about, because putting a motor together, doing the timing is a lot, and a lot could go wrong. So I'm just grateful it turned on. We do still have a few things we need to figure out, which that will be for next week's video. But I appreciate you guys for watching so much. Hit the like, subscribe, and we'll be back on the next one. Peace.